Good afternoon and welcome back to KW Property Management and Consulting's Best Practices monthly webinar for community associations. I will be your host, Tim O'Keefe, an executive director and partner with KW Property Management. Our guest today was kind enough to join us in December to talk about the special legislative session that the governor called and what they dealt with to address rising insurance costs in Florida communities. Today, we're going to come back to that subject to get a little bit more in depth. The state legislature just got back in session again last week, and this is a busy time for our panelists, our guests today. Today is really an ideal time to address the topic that we're going to face. We'll once again talk about the impact that rising insurance costs are having on community associations. This is especially problematic with condominium associations this past year. We can share that across all budgets that KW created in 2023, we saw an increase in insurance of 33% on average. The majority of this increase is due to property and windstorm insurance. We've seen increases as large as 370% at certain properties, which is very concerning. The astronomical increases in a single year are having devastating impact on owners of these properties and may impact their ability to stay at some of the properties long term. So let's get into this very important discussion today. And I will reintroduce our panelists and we'll get started with Lisa Miller. Lisa Miller has her own firm, Lisa Miller and Associates. She was a former deputy commissioner of the Florida Insurance Commission. Lisa is a disaster insurance and recovery expert, offering her clients extensive knowledge on insurance and financial services regulations, real estate, and emergency management. Lisa doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the walk. And so much so, she's sitting on the 4th floor of the state capitol in Tallahassee right now, walking the walk. And I'm sure she's hearing a lot of people talk the talk. We're going to find out what's going on in Tallahassee today and what we can expect over the next couple of weeks while the state legislature is in session. So Lisa, thank you so much for being here. I know it's a busy time, and welcome back to our program. No, please.
It was a great pleasure to visit with so many of you probably a couple months ago about what we were hoping was going to happen during session. And during the December special session, the legislature did quite a bit in terms of what I'll call long-term insurance solutions, changing the way litigation is handled, making sure that if a lawsuit's going to ensue, it's a valid lawsuit and not just a law firm that's having a lawsuit factory of lawsuits. Those reforms will probably take effect over the next couple of years, but as many of you in the audience are experiencing, we need relief short term. And I often say that there's 3 reasons why your rates are so high, and I'm actually letting you see some of the activity here on the 4th floor, which has the Senate on this side and the House on that side. I've been in the halls of the legislature about a week or 2 ago, and I'm talking to legislators about it. I know that Senator Blaise Angolia, awesome Angolia, he's from the Pasco County area. He was just on a radio program that I completed about 12:30 today and said that the reinsurance crisis is the next crisis to fix. So think about it in these 3 ways. Your insurance premiums are driven by 3 components. First is the weather. We can't do anything about the weather. We know it's more severe, we know it's more extreme, and we understand that it is wreaking havoc on a lot of issues, not just insurance. The next piece of that insurance premium that you're paying is the litigation piece. The governor and the legislature have been working very hard. They're working hard right now. There's a bill that will come up tomorrow in the Senate, one of the Senate committees, that will continue to change some of the lawsuit. I spoke to a plaintiff lawyer this morning who screamed at me for minutes, telling me that it's not the way to do things. I politely disagreed with him. And when I reminded him that 80% of all litigation in the country in property insurance is filed in Florida, and only 8% of all the claims in property insurance are in Florida. He did not know that statistic. Something about that to get a handle on that. So the governor and the legislature are leading that. whatever side you're on of that, I'm happy to talk with you individually about it. But there is a serious, we're out of balance in Florida. And if you're going to sue somebody, have a valid reason, make sure it's valid and move ahead. And everybody should have the right to sue, but not in a factory situation. So that litigation piece is driving our insurance premiums. And the third reason is reinsurance. But reinsurance is insurance for insurance companies. So insurance companies are required by the regulators to buy, to be purchased. So for every dollar that they buy, that they spend, or have in their coffers, they have to have a certain amount of reinsurance to back them up. And for example, let's say an insurance company has 2,000 condo policies. They agree that the first 30 million in claims, they'll take themselves. And then every dollar after 30 million, the word is CEDE, cede that or transfer that to reinsurance companies around the world. They pay for that. So for every dollar you pay in premium, about 40 cents last year of your dollar went to buy reinsurance. This year it's supposed to be 50 cents, and next year it could be 55 to 60 cents. So as the cost of reinsurance goes up, so does your premium. It is a required purchase, most expensive purchase of our insurance companies. So then you're saying, well, why are you telling me this, Lisa? Why do I care? You told me the weather I can't change. You're telling me they're fixing litigation. Why aren't they fixing reinsurance? You know why? Because I'm not hearing from you. When I walk the halls of the legislature, I get every now and then from a senator or house member. Yeah, we get some calls and we say we're working on it. But what matters to these people is seeing the increase. I have in my inbox, I got it this morning from an awesome condo president. Her premium last year was 577,000. This year it's $1 million. That's real. Imagine if 100 condo presidents collected, or Tim collects for you, 100 of those statements that shows 2022 and 23, and we collect those, and I'll help Tim decide where to send those. We need to be asking the House and Senate, what are you going to do about this short term? They can do something about reinsurance now. They're in session until May. In the next 2 weeks, the committees will stop meeting and they'll all go to the floor session. But an amendment can be offered at any time. There are experts that are working on this reinsurance issue. We're having a meeting again on Friday to talk about how to quickly bring the cost of reinsurance down by using state-sponsored reinsurance versus the private reinsurance that's out of London and Switzerland and Bermuda, where all the private reinsurance companies are. The private reinsurance companies have said, we're going to go up on our price because we can and we're not regulated. Number two, we may not even offer some reinsurance in this state. So it's very, very serious what's going on. And frankly, if you don't speak up, I'm doing my best, but I'm an office of one. There's a few others up here talking about it, but this governor has not signaled he wants to do anything about it this session. And he needs to know that you're hurting, if I can say so. Tim, throw me a question or two, and let's see if we can get through.
So Lisa, one of the things one of the poll questions that we asked today of the group would be, would you be willing to support the effort to reduce rising insurance costs by contacting the office of State Senator Boyd as the chairperson of the Senate Banking and Insurance Committee? And we've gotten just about everybody has said yes. So what we will do with that information is I'll be able to contact everybody who said yes, and we'll send out the letter, the form that you want us to send out, which provides the information necessary to make these phone calls that we're looking to do, or send an email, letter, or whatever the best way is to do it. So what's going to be the best process for us to engage the group that's listening today to try to get them to have their voice be heard in the legislature?
So I would recommend that you call Senator, if 100 of you call Senator Boyd's office, you'll get a nice person on the phone. You'll ask them for their email address. And while you're on the phone with them, ask them to say, I want to email you my last year and this year's statement. I want you to see it so you can show Senator Boyd, and engage them while you're on the phone with them. Have that attachment ready to send. If Senator Boyd got 100 of those, I think it may empower him, embolden him to help us with this. He is the Senate chairman. He's the Senate chairman of the Senate Banking Insurance Committee. He's a wonderful person. He's an insurance agent, so he understands it. But he doesn't really like to see me in the hallway because he's just sick of talking to me. So I need all of you. You don't need to put my name on it. I've said enough. This needs to be you, your story, your premiums, your pain. Thank you for that, Tim.
And we've got some great stories. I'm looking at a couple of them right in front of me. Betty is saying that their rates only went up 16% this past year, but they have very little insurance for wind coverage. And so if they got the same kind of wind coverage as they had from previous years, their rates would have probably been 300 to 400 times higher. Linda is saying that in their community association, insurance went from $169,000 last year to over $700,000 this year. And they have several layers of insurance with different companies, but they're also one of the other drivers, and Lisa references this, the assessment, the appraised value of properties has gone up significantly in the last 3 or 4 years. And what we're finding is that a lot of the carriers aren't taking old appraisals, so they want new appraisals. So if your property was appraised at $40 million 3 or 4 years ago and it's $65 million today, you're paying for that catch up right now, because now they don't want to insure your property for 40 million anymore if it's worth 65 million. So that's another significant driver. And also from condominiums, why they've been affected, the tragedy in Surfside with Champlain Tower South, the insurance world is looking at condos in Florida as being greater risk than what they were before that building collapsed. So that's another issue that's driven up some of the insurance costs that we're seeing this year. So there's a number of issues that are really driving these costs up. And Linda is asking Lisa, she's saying, like, we have 174 units, 20-year-old building, it's being maintained well, like, what's the driver of our insurance costs going up? Their value, I'm sure the value of the building is up, but there's these other factors that you already mentioned that's driving insurance up as well.
Well, and that's the other issue. So when Linda gets on the phone with Senator Boyd's office, and remember, when you call his office, you're not calling as one, because he's out of Bradenton. You're calling because he's the Senate chairman of the Banking and Insurance Committee. Okay, you're not calling because you're from Bradenton and one of his constituents. And you say that on the phone. I'm calling him in his capacity as the Senate chairman of Banking and Insurance, and that you want to, while you're on the phone with him, can I get your email address? I want to immediately send you that I was only able to buy 1/10 or 1/20 of the insurance that I need. I can't get it. And can Senator Boyd, can you show this to Senator Boyd, that even though we only went up 16% only, I mean, I can't imagine how much that was, we need more and we can't buy it. And that's as compelling a story as for those of you that went from 500,000 last year to 1 million this year. But I must tell you, I'm volunteering my time to do this. I'm not getting paid to work this hard, but I care about this community and these communities. And my sister's insurance, she's a retired nurse, went from $3,500 to $7,000 with a single family home in Tampa. That's crazy. And a lot of the insurance agents, I mean, not saying that Senator is one, but a lot of the insurance agents are making money. I mean, their commissions are up. I'm not saying Senator Boyd's doing it for that reason. I'm just saying we need to get a handle on these premiums, because it's going to put your unit owners out of business. It is. Your unit owners out of their units, Tim.
Well, and when we have another property that called me yesterday, very just despondent, because their insurance went from $1 million last year to $3 million this year. And this is, very middle of the road pricing for a condo. And, for so many people to have to take such a big increase, it's going to be devastating for some people. And I don't know if everyone's going to be able to stay in their homes. So I think that's part of the message that we have to get out, is like these rates are really impacting us personally and our ability to maintain the lifestyle we have in Florida.
Yeah, it's I can't stress upon you enough that this needs to be your story, not my story, and that we have to make our voices heard. And I think Senator Boyd is an awesome guy. He's just got so much on his plate right now. I saw him in the hallway this morning, and I said to him, I put my call on mute, and I said, Senator Boyd, I'm on the phone with a plaintiff lawyer, and he's screaming at me, can you help me? And he said, no. And he ran the other way.
Well, and so John is asking what's Senator Boyd's office number, and I have a number in front of me. We'll put it in the letter that we'll send out to everybody though. And we will also, provide the information, what you can say, but you'll feel free to add on if you've got your own personal story that, I think drives it home a little bit more, because if they get 100 form letters that look like, oh, this is Lisa sending these letters out to everybody, it's going to be a little better if it has your personal touch and tell your own story. And I think that will send a loud message and a loud voice to the state legislature. But the phone number I have for Senator Boyd's office is 941-745-8300. So if you want to write that down, it's 941-745-8300. And I'll do that again at the end of our session. And we'll make that part of what we send to everybody that said, yes, they're willing to participate. So I think we'll be able to get a nice package that gets out to Senator Boyd's office, and hopefully he listens. And when he sees you, he's going to say, boy, Lisa, you did a number on us. Now we're going to have to listen to you.
That would be awesome. I'd rather say that to you, Tim, than me, but we'll see.
So how far up the ladder can this actually go, with the work that we can do with so many great volunteers on our call today? Is this going to get to the governor's office, or does Senator Boyd really need to deal with this first?
Well, what we're going to hope is that Senator Boyd goes to the governor's office. You're gonna ask, can Senator Boyd, can we come to Wixon? Senator Boyd's office is, just around the corner from the governor's office. So that's what you want, is to get Senator Boyd eventually to say, I hear you, I've heard from 100 condo presidents, I can't believe these premiums, and we gotta get the governor engaged here.
Lisa, you're breaking up a little bit, but what Lisa's saying is that
I think I lost you.
Yeah, the senator's office is right around the corner from the governor, and what we need is for Senator Boyd to get enough feedback from all of us so that he goes to the governor and says, we have an issue on our hands. We've got 100 people that are reaching out to me and think we need to address this. So that will help. And Lisa, can you tell us what you would expect from the state legislature this year? Are they going to tackle this issue at all, or is it really not an agenda item?
It's not on the agenda.
Okay.
So we need to make it get on the agenda.
Right.
That's why your voices need to be heard. To be as important as abortion and all these other things that they're doing.
And when does the current legislative session end?
It ends the first week of May, but over the next 2 to 3 weeks are crunch time.
Okay, so what Lisa said is ends the first week of May, and the next couple of weeks are crunch time. So this is the time we need to get Senator Boyd needs to hear from us.
That's so true. Any other questions out there, Tim, that we can address?
We do. We have some questions. So Robert in Bradenton asks, it makes a comment that insurers have abandoned Florida, leaving little choice at substantial cost increases. Is it time for the state-run citizens insurance to become the mandatory coverage for all state-required property coverage, as opposed to its current status as assigned in a risk pool?
So whenever citizens becomes the primary, we all pay for that. It'd be better if we could attract the private companies back here, and we do that with adding some reinsurance reforms to the mix. So we'll continue on this path to try to restore the private market, and we do that with some state-sponsored reinsurance.
Okay. So Kathleen is asking, should we also send our story to our own representative in our districts as opposed to just Senator Boyd?
Do both,
Do both. Okay. So
do both.
okay. And then John is being very proactive. He's already
I
on
would do
Senator
both.
Boyd's.
Do
Okay.
both.
And John's being very proactive. He's already on Senator Boyd's website, and there's a click through the drop down to send a message, but the topic choices do not include insurance. Is this also an option? Is there another option for sending a message directly to his email? Is that better, or is it what's the best way to try to get our messages or emails into Senator Boyd's hands?
And Robert, you are uniquely poised to appeal to Senator Boyd as one of his constituents and a condo representative. And again, the most powerful thing you can do is to have a copy of 2022 and 2023 premiums. It's a very simple thing to say. I'm sending you these. I'm asking you, what can you do to help me short term? All of you will get hit with, well, we're tackling litigation, to which you say, that's long term. I know in 2-3 years that's going to make a difference. We need relief now, and we know that reinsurance is the only way that the state can help us, is to help us with state-sponsored and the change in the reinsurance, the way it's being purchased now. That's it. I don't say, and I'm not an expert in reinsurance, but we need your help with anything you can do short-term in the next 90 to 120 days. That's what we need. So anybody in Bradenton, you're welcome to go to Senator Boyd's office and take your premium statements with you and wait to see him. But, you know, the voices that you have are very powerful. And Tim, you're spot on. You said there were some other questions, Tim?
I do want to go back to one thing that you were mentioning when we lost the last connection, why the next couple weeks are critical. You were talking about the critical path for the next few weeks. Can you address that again?
Sure. So, you know, the session started on March 6th, and it'll go until May 7th. However, in the next 2 weeks, that'll put us into the 4th week of session. They will have stopped pretty much with any new policy or new ideas or amendments or anything like that. And so we only have about another couple of weeks to get an amendment written. There's a bill that it can go on. It's an insurance bill. It's about 5 pages. It's got a bunch of other stuff in it, but that's the perfect bill to add this to. So, you know, we need to get our voices heard, get the commitment from Senator Boyd, that we can get the commitment from the governor, that he will at least, support we're calling it a reinsurance bridge that would bring down the cost of reinsurance over the next 90 to 120 days so that we can see some reductions in what these companies are quoting, because they all go back to the reinsurance market now. They're there, they're in the market now, and they'll be closing out their reinsurance purchases by the end of May, because storm season happens June 1. They have to have their reinsurance in place by the first day of storm season. That's required by law. So we have a couple of weeks to get our voices heard, try to get Senator Boyd to lead this, and then go on from there.
And then what would be the process for Senator Boyd to take action and try to get in front of the governor? Because one of the questions was, what's the governor, like what is the priority for the governor this year relative to insurance? I don't know if you heard my answer, but I said, I think the governor felt like he addressed this back in May with the special session, and it's not necessarily high up on the agenda, or if on the agenda at all today.
Correct. He believes that they did a little bit about reinsurance in May. They did a little more reinsurance reform in December. We had 2 special sessions last year on property insurance. The legislators came back to town. They spent 2 or 3 days here. They passed some very important bills, but they didn't do a lot of reinsurance. One bill had a couple $1 billion. Another one had another $1 billion. And as one condo president said to me, $1 billion might cover 10 condo buildings on my campus. That's just not nearly enough, and we need more. So Senator Boyd could go around the corner to the governor's office, talk to the governor's staff, say, look, this is a problem. I'm an insurance agent. I've gotten 100 condo board representatives that have sent me what their premiums are doing, and we need to do something this session. But from what I'm gathering, the governor's got other priorities. This needs to be your priority and his priority. You don't need to mention that Lisa Miller's sharing this. I've said enough, and you know how it is. You used to nag your mama and you nagged your daddy. and they wouldn't listen to you, you got somebody else to nag. They're sick of seeing me, and I'll tell you that flat out. I'm 63 years old. I've been doing this almost 40 years, and I know when they're sick of, they need to hear it from somebody else, and that's not me. I can only say so much and do so much. I represent insurance companies. I consult with insurance companies who are asking me to get help with their reinsurance cost. They know when they send out a premium that's double last year, how it's hurting their policyholders. They don't want you to go to Citizens because it's cheaper. That's the dumbest idea in the world, when we could reduce these rates. So just know where I come from. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm asking your help as a Floridian, not as a lobbyist that I am. I'm a Floridian first, and you've got to take charge of this.
That's a really good point. So Lisa, there's some of the poll questions that we got answers to, just so you understand the audience today. We asked the question, how much did your insurance increase in your 2023 budget? And only one person said their increase was under 10%. Almost half of the people that responded, their increase went from 10 to 25% increase. Another 36% went up 50 to 100%, and 12% went up over 100%. So those are really significant numbers that we're talking about. So, we certainly have a captive audience here. And on a scale of 1 to 10, we asked a question of 1 being not at all and 10 being significant. How much of a hardship has insurance increases become on your owners? And 27% have said, about, on a scale of 1 to 5. 6 to 8, which is significant, 36%, and a 9 or a 10 out of 10, 36%. So that's 72% of the people are really feeling the impact of this just on this call alone. So those are all, and the nice part is about everybody on this call is willing to help. So those were our poll questions today that we asked, and I think those are pretty indicative of the problems that we're having in the state right now with insurance costs.
Well, the interesting thing too is, Tim, you have condo leaders on this call. The only reason they're on this call is because they're leading their condo association. These are volunteers who live in these units, who know what's going on. And I don't know about y'all, but there's leadership is a void of it in our state, and we need leaders like you to take a lead on this. I am, just one small cog in this huge wheel, and it really is going to be up to you, your own story, your own pain, your own pictures of what your premiums are doing. This is your story and your time, and you've got about 2 weeks to get it done. And the pressure needs to be placed on your own legislators as well as Senator Boyd, and you can say that. I've called my legislator. He knows what my premiums are doing, both my senator and my House members. And I'm calling the senator who's chairman of Senate Banking and Insurance for his help. And remember, when they say we're tackling litigation, you say that's a long-term solution. We need a short-term reinsurance solution.
Okay. George asked an interesting question. He's saying, if an insurance company writes auto, life, liability, and other insurance coverage in Florida, can they be required to underwrite a book of property insurance?
Say that again about underwriting. Say it one more time, Tim.
So if there are some carriers, insurance companies that will insure for auto, life, and liability, but they don't provide property insurance for condos. And he's basically saying, can that insurance carrier be kind of forced into providing some level of underwriting for property insurance as well?
Well, I'll tell you this, that would be like asking McDonald's to sell broiled fish. I mean, this legislature is not going to mandate any kind of business to sell anything they don't want to sell. You have to invite the environment. You have to make business want to do business in a certain way. You have to give them the opportunity to do it. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but most of these insurance companies don't really want to be here. They're here because they've been here and they can't do anything else. This is not the environment that they want to be in, with high reinsurance costs and high litigation and that kind of thing. So we're tackling litigation, but we've got to make this environment with a better reinsurance environment to get them to want to do business in here.
Right.
No different than inviting on an economic development. Many of you have served on economic development commissions, you know, in your own community, the Chamber of Commerce is trying to entice business to come into a community. The same way with the insurance industry. You want to entice them to come do business in our state. And the way you do that is a favorable reinsurance environment and a favorable litigation environment.
Talk a little bit about one of the changes that was made as far as the AOBs, or the assignment of benefits, because that was something that was tackled in December, wasn't it? So that it makes it more difficult for someone to knock on your door and say, you need a new roof, I can get you a free roof.
Yeah, we eliminated the assignment of benefits, and a lot of that was the crux of how these lawsuits got off the ground, is because they would convince condo presidents to sign an assignment, and then the public adjuster shows up, and then the lawyer shows up. The lawyer that I had a great conversation with this morning, and he's a dear friend, we're all just on different sides of the issue. And I said to him, why won't we let these condo associations work through the state-sponsored mediation program, work with an appraiser, work with alternative dispute resolution systems? Why do we have to sue right out of the gate? And of course, he said to me, oh, these insurance companies, they never pay. They're just a pain in the ass. They're greedy. I'm like, I'm not saying they're perfect, but you can't say all. You can't say everyone. You can't do that. And, you know, he's a lawyer, so of course he's going to encourage condo associations to sue. He's a condo association lawyer. And so I get it. This is his livelihood that's being attacked right now. But I want to encourage you, if you have a dispute, the state has a free program. The state of Florida has a free program that'll help you mediate it with your insurance company. Try that first. It's free. Before you sign up with a public adjuster, before you sign up with a lawyer, let's try to ratchet down the litigation in this state, you know, and let Tim know who you're having a problem with, and, you know, we'll try to figure out how to get it mediated. But that's part of the problem, is that the lawyers are so anxious to file a lawsuit. Crazy.
And Lisa, what's that free program that people can use?
It's from the CFO of our state, Jimmy Petronas. Is the CFO of our state, and it's through his Division of Consumer Services. You can Google the Florida Department of Financial Services Mediation Program. Okay. Florida Department of Financial Services Mediation Program.
All right, thank you. Let's see, Robert's asking, I'm sorry, John is asking a question in Fort Lauderdale. It says, is it possible to create competition between insurance companies by using multiple brokers or agents to negotiate your policies? And
so I'm gonna let you handle that. I think the agents, it's like cheating on your hairdresser, frankly. How many of you cheat on your hairdresser? I just don't think you cheat on your insurance agent, but that's not my jam. Tim, you can probably respond to that better.
Yeah, the insurance brokers, they all go to the same markets. And if Lisa's a broker and I'm a broker, only one of us has the broker, is a broker of record. So if Lisa goes to 3 insurance carriers to get insurance for your property, and then you were to engage me and I go to those same 3, I'm going to get the exact same quote that Lisa got. So that really doesn't change as far as the cost. What you need to have is that you have to have a broker who is creative as well as knowledgeable, so that they layer your policies properly, so that you're not overbuying insurance in one area or underbuying in another. So deductibles are important. You should have conversations with your insurance brokers about what kind of deductibles you carry, because people are starting to get, you know, what I'm seeing happen is they're lowering, or they're starting to raise their deductibles. Maybe it was at 2%. If they can max out at 5% now, they're doing that to try to keep their costs down. Some people are reducing the amount of wind mitigation they're getting. You got to do what's right for your association. That's the only thing I could recommend. I can't tell you there's one way that's better than another. I don't believe that the commission rate has got anything to do with the rates, because the commission rates are dictated by the state as far as what your broker can get. So the one thing I would say, though, is what you should not allow your broker to do is show up on Monday and say, you know, your policy expires Friday, I need a check by Wednesday so your policy doesn't lapse. That is not servicing your client. You need to start at least 120 days in advance. Get in touch with your broker, make sure that you know that the policy expires 120 days in advance, and start having that discussion about what can we do? Are there any new markets that we can go to? What are you doing for your other clients to help reduce their costs? Give me all the options that I can think of, that you can think of, so that we at least can evaluate and make the best decision for our community. And you can't do that if they give you 15 days. I had someone call me yesterday and say, you know what, our policy expires at the end of the month. Help, I need help. Our broker just notified us. I'm like, I can't do anything at this point. You can't change your broker. You can't go get a new policy. It's too late, because a lot of the carriers won't even write a policy if it's within 30 days of your policy expiring. So you can't even go get a new rate. So just be very cognizant of timing, and make sure that your broker is sitting down with you, you know, between 90 and 120 days before your policy renews, so that you can see all the options that are available. That's the best advice I could give you on that. Let's see. Devon in Jacksonville is asking, Lisa, does current Florida state statutes provide the best guidance for insuring all the assets of a condominium? And if not, what is missing, and how can a condominium or board member or resident best advocate for additional guidance?
Additional guidance, say that again, Tim, on what issue?
So they're basically saying, does the Florida state statute, so this would be 718, does that provide guidance for insuring all the assets of the condominium? And it really just, I'll just answer that. I think it really depends.
I think in 718, doesn't it talk about making the best effort to get insurance or something like that? Doesn't 718 reference that?
It does. It doesn't necessarily, it's not going to list the assets that you need to have insured, and every building is a little bit different. But again, that's where you sit down with your insurance broker and have a healthy conversation about what needs to be insured and why, and that's what the broker can really help with that. It's not a state statute that drives that. It's really more of a business decision and doing the right thing. And as board members, the number one responsibility for board members is being the fiduciary responsibility for a property. I had somebody ask me the other day, can we just self-insure? I said, absolutely not. If you were to self-insure, that would not be something you'd want to do, because if you have a disaster in the building and you're self-insuring, you could bankrupt everybody in the building if you don't have the right amount of insurance. So you need to have the broker as the expert. And insurance is very complicated. So talk to your brokers, make sure your attorney reviews your contracts that you're signing, and that's going to be the best way to protect yourselves. Let's see, I think I may have one more question here, Lisa, or I think we covered all the questions. Let's see if we have anything live. Oh, Lisa, Linda wants to know, is there a bill number that is being bandied about that was addressed either back in December or maybe now that's in place today that addresses these insurance issues?
So great question. It was Senate Bill 2A, which I think we talked about at my last webinar, that addressed some of the litigation changes that were made in property insurance, and a little bit of reinsurance in that bill. There is a bill now, but it doesn't have anything in it to do with reinsurance. So there's only really one master bill that we could add an amendment to on reinsurance, but I wouldn't get that deep with Senator Boyd. He'll know what bill to put an amendment in if he'll agree to get one done.
Okay, and again, Senator Boyd's office number is 941-745-8300. Let me say it one more time, 941-745-8300. Lisa, I think those are all the questions. I think we did a good job covering what we wanted, to get that message out today. So what would be your from a closing comment standpoint, what would be the best advice, to reiterate the best advice from this session today, what we hope to get from all of our listeners today?
The next phone call they take should be to Senator Boyd's office, have their 2022, 2023 ready. Whoever answers that phone, they may send you to another office, but whoever you ultimately get, make sure that you're on the phone with them and say, would you hold a minute, give me your email address, and I'd like to send you my premium increase or changes. And then can you schedule me 3 or 4 minutes, that's all you need, with Senator Boyd, so I can tell him about it and ask him if he can help us get to the governor's office to try to get something done this session. Just as nice as you can be.
Okay, and that's great advice. And I hope that all of our listeners today are engaged and ready to take action. This is a call to action meeting. So we certainly hope that you have the time to reach out, and we can send you a form letter that Lisa has created for us, and we can email that to everybody that wants to participate. And then you can add on to that letter and share your own personal story about how it's impacting you and your association and what you've seen in the cost increases on insurance. And I think if we get enough loud voices, hopefully Senator Boyd will hear us and will take action and take it to the governor. And if all that happens, Lisa, what's the best we could expect?
Well, the governor simply signals, okay, Senator Boyd, I'll support what you're trying to do. And then Senator Boyd works with a team to get an amendment written up about state-sponsored reinsurance, and he gets it filed and it passes the session. What should happen? It's not rocket science. There's proposals out there. I've got a meeting on Friday morning with a senator to explain to her what the ideas are to get this state-sponsored reinsurance off the ground. And I just talk to anybody that'll listen to me, and I hope you'll do the same thing. Anybody that'll listen to you,
Right.
Got to stay on it.
Well, as for all of our listeners, you can tell Lisa is a wealth of knowledge and produces some very useful content. She has a newsletter. It's weekly right now because this legislature is in session. You can go to her website at lisamillerassociates.com and sign up for Lisa's newsletter. I get it a couple times a week right now, and I read it every week. It's got great content in there. I learn a lot. So thank you for being such an advocate, Lisa, and educating all of us.
I appreciate all of you. I am going to walk over to a certain senator's office. I see him heading that way, and Tim, I'll work through you and Nicole and Shelley and see if we can't get some traction here. And remember, this is not about Lisa Miller. In fact, you don't even know who I am. It's all about you and your leadership, and I'm happy to help.
And thank you for everyone on the call today. Feel free to share this with their neighboring properties and get them involved too, because everybody's got the same has got the same thing going on. But today's session is recorded. For those that didn't make it, we will send out the broadcast tomorrow with this information so that everybody can jump on board. If you want to get on our website at kwpmc.com or our YouTube channel at KWPM-TV on YouTube, you'll find this recorded session. We look forward to having you join us again next month on April 19th as we continue to talk best practices for community associations, the third Wednesday of every month from 3 to 4. Lisa, thank you so much for your time today. We know this is an extremely busy time. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of help for you so that they hear the voice of someone besides Lisa Miller. You're very good at what you do. Thank you. So
Thank you.
From all of us at KW Property Management and Consulting, please be respectful to your neighbors and stay healthy. Thank you so much. Look forward to hearing from you next month. Now.